Hey everyone, welcome back to Hands on Books. But if this is your first time here, the idea behind the show is to do something fun and creative with my favorite hobby, which is book collecting. So I've got a pile of unopened, mostly used books here that we pick from at random to see what we get. Maybe you'll find your next book or be introduced to a new topic, but the goal here is to share the experience of the books themselves. If this is something you enjoy, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel to receive notifications, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Let's get started. All right, I'm about to go on vacation, so I want to open several of these books and see if I get anything I want to bring with me. Oh, yes, perfect. I do want to bring this with me. All right, so this is On Blue's Waters by Gene Wolfe, the first volume of the Book of the Short Sun. So Gene Wolfe is a famous, prolific American science fiction author who wrote this really large collection of books called The Solar Cycle, and the most famous of all of his works is the first part of the solar cycle, which itself is 4 books, and that's called the Book of the New Sun. And I read that a long time ago, and that really turned me on to Gene Wolfe. And it's in the Dying Earth genre, so similar to, or maybe I think it was inspired in part by Jack Vance's Dying Earth series. And so it follows the adventures of this executioner protagonist who has all these adventures in like a late Earth where the sun is on the verge of going out. And then the second part of the series, or actually after the Book of the New Sun, there's a 5th book called Earth of the New Sun, but it's not really part of the original 4. Then the second part of the solar cycle is the Book of the Long Sun, which I just finished finally after like 2 years. And it was a bit of a slog, but I really like the setting of the story, which is like you have this civilization on the inside of a spaceship, and they don't know they're on the inside of a spaceship because they've been there for generations. And I think he uses Gerard O'Neill's general idea of what later became an O'Neill cylinder, where you have like a cylindrical spaceship that turns to generate gravity and everyone lives on the inside of it. So I finally finished that, and this is the first book of the Book of the Short Sun, and that's the 3rd part of the solar cycle. And short sun meaning a sun like ours that appears to be short rather than long, because in the O'Neill cylinder you had a sun stretching from one side to the other, so it was the Book of the Long Sun. So let's read the back. On Blue's Waters is easily the best science fiction novel of the year, and the author's most compelling since publication in the early 1980s of the now classic Book of the New Sun. Quest novels featuring disparate companions are nothing new, but Wolfe, through adroit use of metaphor and irony, 2 qualities usually in short supply in the field, is able to invest even the hoariest of genre premises with profound meaning. While the book is the first of a trilogy, it is also a sequel to Wolfe's previous tetralogy, The Book of the Long Sun. Even given its dual, somewhat conflicting role as a sequel and initial volume, On Blue's Waters is a rich enough work to stand on its own merits and is further evidence that Wolfe is the finest living writer in his field. From the Seattle Times, and yeah, he won a ton of awards. World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement, Nebula Award, World Fantasy Award, John W. Campbell Memorial Award, the British Fantasy Award, and the Prix Apollo. And a little bit from Michael Swanwick. Among living writers, there is nobody who can even approach Gene Wolfe for brilliance of prose, clarity of thought, and depth and meaning. By any standard, Wolfe's beautifully composed, meditative, thrilling, and tricky beyond belief science fantasy is a work of the highest art. And that term science fantasy that this review uses is like kind of what you have to use, because a lot of things in Wolfe, especially in the Book of the New Sun, he'll use these really arcane, strange terms for things that obviously, if you take it literally, is not what he's talking about or what he's meaning, I guess. He'll mask a futuristic device in ancient terminology, and he leaves it up to the reader to sort of piece this stuff together. So Wolfe is known for this prose that you kind of, the reader will get out what they put in a sense, because you can read it at surface level and you'll still have fun probably, or you can like really try to pick apart the language that he's using and what he try to figure out, like imagine what he imagined when he was writing it. So more praise for Gene Wolfe. I think we've read enough of praise for Gene Wolfe. Yeah, so Book of the New Sun, Book of the Long Sun, and then Book of the Short Sun. Respectfully dedicated to Roy and Matt. List of names. See, Book of Silk. See, yeah, Horn, Nettle, Silk. These are all characters from the Book of the Long Sun, the previous series in the solar cycle. Lots of characters. Let's see how it starts. To every town. Like you, we left friends and family in the light of the long sun for this new world we share with you. We would greet our brothers at home if we could. We have long wished to do this. Is it not so for you? He hold fire, a man of our town, has labored many seasons where our lander lifts high its head above our trees. The gray man speaks to he hold fire and to us, and it is his word that he will fly once again. Soon he will rise upon fire and fly like the eagle. We might clasp it to our bellies. That is not the way of hunters, and there are many beds of hide. Send a man to come with us, send a woman, if it is your custom. One alone from each town of this new world, whether he or she. With us the one you send will return to our old home among the stars. Send soon, send one only. We will not delay. Speak our word to others. The men of Pajaroku. Yeah, so this is a reference to the sort of generation ship that the entire Book of the Long Sun takes place in. And so it looks like there is a group of people on the planet that they arrived at wanting to go back. But we don't know if Old Home means Earth or if Old Home means the Long Sun ship. Oh, let me smell it. This doesn't smell too strongly because it is a pretty new book. I didn't even look at the date. It's like this one's from 2000. So I'll read the first couple of pages. Chapter 1, Horn's book. It is worthless, this old pen case I brought from Viron. It is nothing. You might go around the market all day and never find a single spirit who would trade you a fresh egg for it. Yet it holds. Enough. Yes, enough. I am sick of fancies. At present it holds 2 quills, for I have taken the third one out. 2 were in it when I found it in the ashes of our shop. The third, with which I am writing, was dropped by Oreb not so long ago. I picked it up, put it in this pen case, and forgot both Oreb and his feather. It also holds a knife for pointing pins and the small bottle of black ink, more than half full, into which I dip mine. See how much darker my writing has become. It is facts I need, facts I starve for, to green with fancies. My name is Horn. This is such a pen case as students use in Viron, the city in which I was born, and no doubt in many others. A case of black leather glued over pressboard. It has a brass hinge with a steel spring, and a little brass clamp to keep it shut. We sold them in our shop and asked 6 card bits, but my father would accept 4 if the purchaser bargained a while, and such purchasers always did. 3 if they bought something else, a quire of writing paper, say. The leather is badly scuffed. More facts later, when I have more time. Rajya Mantri wants to lecture me. Reviewing what I wrote yesterday, I see that I have begun without plan or foresight, and in fact without the least notion of what I was trying to do or why I was trying to do it. That is how I have begun everything in life. Perhaps I need to begin before I can think clearly about the task. The chief thing is to begin, after all, after which the chief thing is to finish. I have finished worse than I began, for the most part. It is all in the pen case. You have to take out the ink and string it together into the right shapes. That is all. If I had not picked up this old pen case where my father's shop once stood, it is possible that I might still be searching for silk, for the phantom who has eluded me on 3 whirls. Silk may be here on blue already, after all. I have dispatched letters to Han and some other towns, and we will see. It is convenient, I find, to have messengers at one's beck and call. So I am searching here, although I am the only person here in Gaon who could not tell you where to find him. Searching does not necessarily imply movement. Thinking it does, or rather assuming it without thought, may have been my first and worst mistake. Thus I continue to search, true to my oath. I question travelers, and I write new letters subtracting some facts and adding others, composing flatteries and threats I hope will bring this town and that to my assistance. No doubt my scribe thinks I am penning another such letter at this moment, a letter that he, poor fellow, will have to copy out with broad flare flourishes upon sheepskins scraped thin. So good. We need a paper mill here, and it is the only thing that I am competent to do. I wish Orib were here. Now that I know what I mean to do, I can begin, but not at the beginning. To begin at the beginning would consume far too much time and paper, to say nothing of ink. I am going to begin, when I do, just a day or 2 before the moment at which I put to sea in the sloop. Tomorrow, then, when I have had time to decide how best to tell the convoluted tale of my long, vain search for Patera silk, for silk my ideal, who was the augur of our Manteon in the Sun Street quarter of our sacred city of Viren in the belly of the whirl, when I was young. So in that first page, it's a lot of references to, well, it's very typical of Gene Wolfe to just dump you into the story. No lifeline. He's just throwing information at you, really building a lived-in world that you kind of just have to weather through it until it starts to make sense. But these are a bunch of references to the first book. So Horn was one of the people who escaped the Long Sun Whirl in the first lander, and Viren was the setting, the main city where the story of the Long Sun takes place for the most part. And Orib is this great character, my favorite character in the Long Sun. He's a talking bird that can only speak in 2 words at a time, and it's just amazing what Wolfe can make a character like that do, and actually like make you feel something about that character. Even this might be a criticism that I didn't realize about the Book of the Long Sun, but I cared more about Orib than I did really any of the human characters in that series. So that could be a good or a bad thing, I don't know. And at the end of the Book of the Long Sun, Horn, who's actually kind of not even a secondary character in it, comes into his own near the end of the series, and at the end he's planning on writing down like the whole story of what happened. So Wolfe is always really meticulous in creating these narrative frames that you're not just reading words floating on a page for no reason. There's like a story behind the words that you're reading, kind of like, The Hobbit or something like that. But he's always creating these really interesting narrative frames that I love. Anyway, I'm hoping that the Book of the Short Sun will be less of a slog than the Book of the Long Sun. Like, I love Wolfe, but there were some times in that where he would cover action by having characters talk about what happened in the past. So, like, he would skip ahead and then something really important would happen, and then he would let you know what it was by a very long conversation between characters, and it was not, in my opinion, like a super fun way to learn about some of that stuff. So I'm hoping that this isn't written in the exact same style, but either way, I know I'm gonna like the story. Well, let me see how much it costs. So I actually got this one from Amazon. This one was $16, and for some reason this book is like expensive. And it's not an amazing condition, but there's no writing in it, and it's got this mark, which I don't love, and it's kind of beat up, but I've always wanted to finish the solar cycle, and it's taken me like years to get this far, so I'm perfectly happy with this regardless. All right, so that is Gene Wolfe on Blues Waters, One for Vacation. Happy reading.